Imagine a young girl growing up in a working-class neighborhood in Rome, abandoned by her father, raised by a single mother in a home that was later destroyed by fire, facing financial hardships that would break many spirits. Yet she rises not just to become a powerful politician but Italy's first female prime minister, leading a government with roots that trace back to some of the most controversial chapters in Italian history. This is the shocking ascent of Giorgia Meloni, a story that defies odds, challenges expectations, and captivates the world with its mix of determination, nationalism, and unapologetic ambition. Born on 15 January 1977, in Rome, Italy, Giorgia Meloni entered the world at a time when the country was still navigating its complex post-war identity. Her father, Francesco Meloni, was a tax advisor with Sardinian roots, while her mother, Anna Parator, came from Sicily and later became a novelist. But family life shattered early when her father left when Giorgia was just a child, around 11 years old according to some accounts, forcing her mother to raise Giorgia and her older sister Arianna largely alone in the working-class district of Garbatella in central Rome. The family had initially lived in a more affluent setting, but after a house fire and the father's departure, they moved to Garbatella, where life was modest and challenging. Meloni has often spoken about how this impoverished upbringing shaped her views on family, resilience, and national identity, giving her a deep sense of what it means to struggle without privilege. Despite these hardships, young Giorgia was drawn to books and ideas. She discovered J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings around age 11 and even dressed up as a hobbit, finding inspiration in themes of courage and heritage. Politics called to her early. At just 15 years old in 1992, she joined the Youth Front, the student wing of the Italian Social Movement, or MSI, a party with post-fascist origins founded by supporters of Benito Mussolini after World War II. This decision came amid a turbulent time in Italy, with events like the mafia killing of prosecutor Paolo Borsellino influencing her search for law, order, and identity. She has described it as a reaction to chaos and a desire to belong, not blind ideology. By 1996, at age 19, Meloni had graduated from the Istituto Tecnico Professional di Stato Amerigo Vespucci, a technical high school, and she was already a visible activist. She did not pursue university studies, instead diving straight into politics as a full-time operative. This path marked her as a school dropout in the traditional sense of higher education, yet she channeled her energy into grassroots organizing. She quickly rose in the youth ranks, becoming a leader in student conservative movements. In 1998, still in her early 20s, she was elected as a councillor to the provincial government of Rome, serving until 2002. Her charisma and oratory skills made her a standout. She was filmed as a young activist praising Mussolini in interviews around that time, saying he was a good politician who did things for Italy, comments that would later fuel controversies but reflected the circles she moved in. As the MSI evolved into the National Alliance under Gianfranco Fini, distancing itself somewhat from its fascist past while keeping the tricolor flame symbol, Meloni continued climbing. She led Azione Giovani, the youth movement of the National Alliance, becoming its president in 2004 at age 27. These years were formative, blending her working-class roots with a fierce defense of Italian sovereignty, traditional values, and skepticism toward unchecked globalization. The political landscape shifted dramatically with Silvio Berlusconi's return to power. Meloni's fortunes rose with the centre-right coalition. In 2006, She was elected to the Chamber of Deputies, Italy's lower house of parliament, representing the People of Freedom coalition that merged National Alliance and Berlusconi's Forza Italia. Then, in 2008, at just 31 years old, she was appointed Minister for Youth in Berlusconi's government, becoming the youngest minister in post-war Italian history. This was a remarkable achievement for someone from her background, a single mother's daughter without elite university credentials. As youth minister from 2008 to 2011, Meloni focused on policies supporting young people, families, and sports, pushing initiatives to encourage youth employment and cultural pride. She navigated the complexities of coalition politics, proving herself as a capable administrator. However, Berlusconi's government faced scandals and economic turmoil amid the global financial crisis. When it collapsed in 2011, technocratic Prime Minister Mario Monti took over with austerity measures. Meloni opposed these harshly, arguing they hurt ordinary Italians. This period marked a turning point. In December 2012, along with allies Ignazio La Russa and Guido Crosetto, she co-founded Brothers of Italy, or Fratelli d'Italia, named after the opening line of Italy's national anthem. The party carried forward the tricolor flame logo and emphasized nationalism, opposition to mass immigration, Euroscepticism, and defense of traditional family structures. It started small, gaining just around 2% in the 2013 elections, but Meloni used this as a foundation to build something bigger. She became the party's president in 2014 and dedicated herself fully to growing it, even as she ran unsuccessfully in European and local elections initially. During these opposition years, Meloni honed her message: Italy first, protection of borders, support for natural families, and resistance to what she called EU bureaucrats imposing policies against national interests. She criticized gender ideology, same-sex parenting in certain contexts, and unchecked migration, while championing economic policies favoring small businesses and lower taxes. Her personal life also evolved. She had a long-term relationship with journalist Andrea Giambruno, with whom she had a daughter, Ginevra, in 2016. Though not married initially, Meloni often speaks proudly as a mother, weaving this into her public image as a woman balancing family and leadership. Through the 2010s, Brothers of Italy remained a minor player, but events like the migrant crisis and dissatisfaction with mainstream parties boosted its appeal. By staying in opposition during the Conte and Draghi governments, including the COVID-19 era where it was the only major party outside the unity cabinet, Meloni positioned herself as a consistent voice against the establishment. Her rhetoric resonated with voters tired of instability. Italy had seen dozens of governments since World War II. Meloni's autobiography, I Am Giorgia, published in 2021, detailed her roots, ideas, and vision, becoming a bestseller and solidifying her brand. She moderated some tones for broader appeal, emphasizing Atlanticism and support for NATO while maintaining core nationalist principles. Polls showed steady growth, especially as economic pressures mounted. This decade of groundwork, from provincial councillor to party founder, set the stage for her explosive rise. People who dismissed her as a fringe figure underestimated the power of her story, a school dropout turned youth minister turned party leader who spoke directly to concerns about identity, security, and sovereignty in a changing Europe. Her ascent was built on relentless campaigning, strategic alliances within the center-right, and an ability to connect emotionally with crowds, often ending speeches with passionate declarations of Italian pride. By the early 2000s, Brothers of Italy was surging in popularity, capitalizing on disillusionment with left-leaning policies on migration and economy. Meloni's journey from Garbatella streets to national prominence was no accident. It was forged in adversity, fueled by conviction, and executed with remarkable discipline. As elections loomed in 2022, she was ready to make history. The 2022 Italian general election became a watershed moment, not just for Meloni but for Europe, as voters delivered a clear mandate amid record low turnout below 64%. Brothers of Italy emerged as the largest party with about 26% of the vote, leading a centre-right coalition with Matteo Salvini's League and Silvio Berlusconi's Forza Italia that secured a solid parliamentary majority. On 22 October 2022, Giorgia Meloni was sworn in as Italy's first female prime minister, heading the most right-leaning government since World War II. The world watched with a mix of fascination and alarm, given her party's historical roots, yet Meloni moved quickly to reassure allies. In her inaugural speech, she emphasized responsibility, unity, and pragmatic governance, pledging support for Ukraine against Russian aggression, commitment to NATO, and cooperation with the European Union while defending Italian interests. This marked a shift from earlier Eurosceptic tones to a more balanced approach, focusing on national sovereignty within alliances. As Prime Minister, Meloni faced immediate challenges. High energy prices due to the Ukraine war, post-COVID recovery, inflation, and migration pressures. Her government worked to lower energy costs through subsidies, increased domestic drilling in Italian seas for gas production, and diversification of supplies. Economically, she pursued continuity with some Draghiera fiscal discipline while introducing tax incentives and family support measures. Unemployment dropped notably under her watch, public debt management stabilized somewhat, and Italy benefited from EU recovery funds. On migration, a signature issue, Meloni's administration cracked down on illegal arrivals by cooperating with North African countries, establishing processing centers like those in Albania, and pushing for faster repatriations of rejected asylum seekers. Sea arrivals decreased significantly compared to previous peaks, though critics pointed to ongoing humanitarian concerns and legal battles. She championed law and order policies, including stricter penalties for certain crimes, restrictions on cannabis, and measures against unauthorized occupations of property. Meloni's social policies reflected her long-held views. Support for the traditional nuclear family, incentives for births to counter Italy's low fertility rate, opposition to surrogacy and certain aspects of gender ideology in education. She promoted women's roles but within a framework emphasizing motherhood and national identity. As a mother herself, she often highlighted these themes. On the international stage, she built relationships across the spectrum, strengthening ties with the US under different administrations, engaging with conservative leaders, while maintaining EU partnerships. Italy under her leadership increased defense spending toward NATO targets and played a role in global forums. Domestically, she pursued ambitious reforms. Proposals for direct election of the Prime Minister to enhance stability, differentiated autonomy for regions to devolve powers, and justice system changes separating roles of judges and prosecutors. These faced opposition criticism as power consolidating moves, sparking debates in Parliament. Her government passed numerous laws, showing legislative productivity after years of Italian political fragmentation. Throughout her tenure, Meloni maintained high poll numbers for her party, often leading as the most popular leader. Supporters praised her for bringing stability, Italy's first such period in over a decade, economic pragmatism, and standing up for Italian values against perceived globalist overreach. She navigated controversies, including her past statements and party symbols, by focusing on present governance and distancing from extremism. Critics accused her of authoritarian leanings, insufficient economic transformation, and selective pragmatism, but her approval endured among her base for delivering on core promises like border security. Personal resilience defined her, balancing single motherhood with the premiership. She projected strength and relatability. By 2025 to 2026, analyses noted her evolution into a skilled stateswoman, with Italy showing improved business confidence, lower borrowing costs than some peers, and renewed international respect for its seriousness. Challenges persisted: debt levels, regional disparities, EU negotiations, but her story inspired many as proof that humble origins and dropout status need not limit potential. Giorgia Meloni's ascent from Garbatella to Palazzo Chigi is a masterclass in perseverance. She turned personal and national struggles into political capital, building a movement that captured the frustrations and hopes of millions. Whether one agrees with her policies or not, her journey highlights how determination, clear messaging, and timing can reshape a nation's trajectory. From youth activist to history-making prime minister, she redefined possibilities for women in conservative politics and challenged Italy's self-image. As she continues leading, her legacy will be debated. A defender of sovereignty who stabilized Italy, or a figure whose roots raise deeper questions about Europe's political directions. Either way, her shocking rise proves that in politics, as in life, unlikely heroes can emerge from the most ordinary streets, armed with nothing but conviction and an unbreakable will to fight for what they believe defines their country.